Hey everybody, Tom Vasel here as we continue my series of going through various board game publishers and telling you my 10 favorite games from each of these publishers. Today we're taking a look at Czech Games editions, or as they're commonly known, CGE. Now, there are many different board game companies out there, but one thing that CGE has done is they've made a mark on the board gaming world. They have changed gaming in many ways. A lot of their stuff is based on the very prolific and multi-talented designer Tom Vasel, who has done many of their games. They don't do a ton of games, CGE. Usually they do one large, one smaller game per year. And the larger games are an event, and several of their larger games are not even in my 10 favorite, but I know they will be for a lot of you all. But I'm just going to go through my 10 favorite games from this company, and here we go. Number 10 is Sanctum. Now, Sanctum, when you look at the cover here, and the one thing I don't like about Sanctum is it's very, it's a little like, oh, what is this? This is Diablo, right? And it does feel that way. This is a game in which you go through, and by the way, this can be played solo, and I have played this solo and enjoyed it. You go through and you're leveling up and finding new weapons, and you do this really fun combat system where you're rolling dice, assigning these dice to different things, and then you get more equipment and better things as you fight monsters. It is a lot of fun. So you get to the final boss, which is actually the weakest part of the game, but the rest of it, that leveling up and getting better things, just really feels entertaining and a lot of fun. And the 4 characters included in the game have a very different feel to them. Sanctum. Number 9 is a much older game, and one of the oldest games on this list, and that's Shipyard. Now, there's a lot of games in which there is a rondel, where you're moving your piece around a track, giving you actions. Shipyard is a rondel of rondels. There's multiple, and in this, you're building a ship, which you're then taking down the river. And this is definitely a Euro-style game through and through, where you get resources, you got to build the ship, you do all these things, but it comes together in a very streamlined way. I'm actually wondering if they're going to eventually do like a Shipyard 2nd edition. There's been a lot of this designer's games here, Vladimir Suchy here, a lot of this stuff has been redone in different ways, and I wonder if we will see this because I think he's just fantastic. Number 8 on the list is Alchemists. Now, Alchemists is known for a couple things, but the biggest one is this is the first time we saw an app brought into a board game, I think, and done really well. All it was this is a deduction game, and you would scan 2 things to see what potion they might make. That was it. In fact, you don't technically need the app. There's a way to do it in the game itself, but it did it so seamlessly and so well. This and the fact that CG was on the forefront of making their games as apps anyway really kind of cemented them into a company that just was always very forward thinking. This game is half worker placement, half deduction. It is a deduction game, which I like a lot, but there's a lot of other things going on in it, and deduction is almost a little bit secondary to the game, but definitely one worth checking out. Number 7 is Space Alert. I like silliness, and Space Alert is silliness combined, not as silly as some other games. Bunny Bunny Moose Moose comes to mind. But Space Alert is a cooperative game, and I think the best way is it's kind of cooperative robo-rally. You're programming your people to run around the ship which is blowing up. This also doesn't have an app, but has like a soundtrack involved with the game, and so random events can happen. It can suddenly cease communication between players or whatever, but you have these ships that are attacking, enemies invading your ship, and you just need to have the right things. I don't know that I've won it more than once, but it was so entertaining to play throughout. Space Alert. Number 6 is their most popular, newest game, and that's Lost Ruins of Arnak. Lost Ruins of Arnak uses deck building as a side mechanism, mixing it with worker placement and moving up tracks. It's kind of the ultimate Euro-style game, but it does have a cool Indiana Jones venturing type theme where you're going off, sending your person out to explore new locations, find monsters, ignore those monsters or get around the monsters, and while building a deck, you're using a deck to help send your workers out. There's a lot of cool things, and I like this. I haven't even played the new expansion for the game. This is without that expansion. I heard the expansion only makes it better. Lost Ruins of Arnak. Number 5 is their most popular, best-selling game, and really changed party gaming when it came out, and that's Codenames. Codenames has sold millions, and that's not including the fact that it came out in many different versions. We have Codenames Pictures and Codenames Disney and Simpsons and so on. but the original Codenames, which can be played as almost a raucous party game, but also as a very thoughtful password-style game between two teams. You can play two pairs, a couple versus couple, or a bigger team versus a bigger team. I've seen this game played so often. It is so much fun as you try to give clues, and you want to give broad clues to give more answers, but you're trying to be clever. And Codenames makes you feel clever, which I think is part of its popularity. My number 4 game is Galaxy Trucker. This came out, I think, before Space Alert. They just released the 10th anniversary edition of it. Galaxy Trucker is a crazy game that I fell in love with on the spot. Maybe it was the 15th anniversary. Anyway, when Galaxy Trucker, you are speed, grabbing tiles, and building a spaceship. For the first half of each round. The second half, random events happens and your spaceship might blow up or you might survive. I know some people hate that, but I love it every time. It's so entertaining to see what might happen. You try to build your ship as well as you can, and then you just see what happens. The journey is so much fun in this very fun game, Galaxy Trucker. My number 3 is probably their most acclaimed game that they've come out with, and that is Through the Ages. This game is the game that definitely put them on the map and the designer Vlad Kovacs on the map. Through the Ages is essentially Civilization, Sid Meier's Civilization, as a card/board game. There's not really a board. You're not moving around attacking people, but you are building a civilization. This does have a really good expansion of leaders, but there's cards. It's very intriguing. I think it works, and I think I like it best with 2. A lot of people would argue 3 or 4. It's a very in-depth, longer game, 3 to 4 hours, but it is one that will leave you with a lasting feel of, I just built a civ. There's also a very good app for the game out there, as there also was for Galaxy Trucker. Like I said, CG is really good with both of these things. But I like Through the Ages a lot. Number 2 is sort of a tie. Number 2 is technically Prodigals Club, which was a reworking of Last Will. You can combine the two of them also, but they're very similar games. I love this game for the theming purpose. In Last Will, you're trying to lose all your money. In the Prodigals Club, you're trying to lose all your money and all your friends and your reputation, which sounds fun as a theme. And then the game itself is a worker placement. You go to different spots and you're just trying to spend money, and you buy a house, and oh no, that house went up in value. It is basically Brewster's Millions, that movie, as a board game, and it's not just a fun theme, but it just plays really well. There's another game from Vladimir Suchi, who I really like his stuff, and I just think this is fantastic. Prodigals Club is great. Last Will is also great. There's a lot of similarities between them. I don't see the need to own them both. Last Will is what I like, but I can see people Prodigals Club is one I would prefer, but I can see a lot of people liking Last Will. Vladimir Suchi is also the author of my favorite game, my number 1 from CGE, and that is Pulsar 2849. This is a game that when I first saw it, I was like, okay, it looks like a generic space game. Guess what? It is a generic space game, but it's a really good generic space game, as you have these, you're flying a spaceship around, but you are upgrading it. You're drafting dice in this game, trying to build these little pulsars. The dice drafting is great. The decision making is great. I always feel like there's so many things I want to do, and I can only do some of them. There's multiple roads to victory points. It is the very epitome, I think, of almost a pasted-on theme, and yet I like it. Every time I play it, I think, man, this game is just so much fun. So, Pulsar 2849 is my number 1 game. What's yours? There's a lot of good ones that I mentioned. There's Dungeon Lords and Dungeon Pets and many other games, Bunny Bunny Moose Moose and such. What's your favorite game from CG? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and these have been my favorite 10 games from Czech Games Edition. We'll see you next time.